Thank you. When I first started working with the clinicians, they described the typical trajectory of functional decline as people age as this stair-step fashion. They'll go along on a plateau for a while until something dramatic happens where they drop down to a much lower level until the next big thing happens. So our hypothesis was, if we could identify the beginning of that decline, an intervention could be introduced that would prevent the decline or lessen the decline. So in engineering terms, we might think of this as optimizing the area under the curve. And in order to do that, we need some kind of information about what's going on. And that became the motivation of our sensors. So let me show you how this plays out in a facility called Tiger Place, which is in Columbia, Missouri, where I live.
By combining multiple sensors throughout the residents' apartments, nurses are able to monitor the health of the residents and detect potential health issues before they become serious.
The potential that we've learned for early illness detection could revolutionize what's happening and the way that we diagnose problems of older adults. We know from the research that we can pick things up 10 days to 2 weeks before critical health change events happen.
The researchers have developed ways to use several types of devices to monitor Tiger Place residents, including motion sensors, bed sensors, webcams, radar sensors, and the Microsoft Kinect, which is originally designed to be used for video games. To protect the privacy of the residents, researchers extract silhouettes from the webcams to create three-dimensional models of each resident. These models are then tracked to detect a change in walking speed and gait. The combination of sensors is used to detect an increase or decrease in activity throughout the day.
So this is all designed around the idea of capturing gait information and other fall risk parameters simply by observing them as they wander around doing their everyday activities.
MU researchers have also developed bed sensors which pick up changes in sleeping patterns.
The idea here is that somebody sleeps at night, they don't have to wear anything. They just go to sleep in their normal way, and we just want to capture their pulse and respiration, and that all together then forms a pattern that makes up their sleep. And we look for changes in those patterns over time that might correlate to changes in their health conditions.
The researchers use all this technology to detect potential health issues in advance. If a change is detected, an alert is sent to the Tiger Place nursing staff so that they can help diagnose the issue.
Getting that alert just helps us to understand a little bit better about what might be going on with them. And so then we can share that with the family and the physician and the other staff that works at Tiger Place.
That advanced detection prevents hospitalization, ER visits. Those are enormous costs. We've prevented multiple hospitalizations, multiple ICU stays, because we've been able to manage their chronic illness early with a little bit of intervention, because things are easier to solve when you detect them earlier.
Even with all the technology being used in their apartments, residents say they are not inconvenienced at all by the health monitors.
No, they don't interfere at all. I always think of that box over there. Sometimes I look at it and think, well, it's recording me, but outside of that, I just completely forget they're in here. And we happen to look up at them. I'll see them up on the wall up there, but that's as far as interfering with anything they don't, and as far as helping us out, we know it's going to in the future.
This technological research at Tiger Place is funded by the National Science Foundation and the National Institutes of Health. For the MU News Bureau, I'm Nathan Hurst.
So that gives you an overview, but I'm going to show you some examples of the kind of sensor data that we can see. So one of the things we've identified is urinary tract infections. And that can come out very simply by looking at the motion sensor data and tracking bathroom usage. So in this chart, every column represents a day, and you can see the change in the bathroom visit, nighttime bathroom visits that correlates with an alert that was generated. This person had a urinary tract infection, but we got her help early on, so we were able to avoid a hospitalization. This is an example of what we call a motion density map, also using motion sensor data. Here, the black indicates time away from home, and the different colors represents the activity level, general activity level. So you can see this particular person was experiencing depression. And again, each column represents one day. And you'll see the center section there where he had a particular return to his depression. He stopped going out of the home, but an intervention was offered to him, and we were able to get his activity level and his out-of-apartment time back up to a more normal activity level for him. This is a retrospective case of looking at bed sensor data. So we went back after the fact and looked at some of the ER visits and hospitalizations that occurred to see if we could find sensor data that might represent changes. And this is a case of a 96-year-old woman who went into the ER visit, the emergency room. And you can see that if we had had the alerts active at that time, we would actually have generated a health alert 40 days before the emergency room visit. 40 days. The sensors showed up. We also have a bed sensor that we've developed, and this has been developed using the US Ignite NSF money. We're installing these in Cedar Falls, Iowa. In fact, this is one of the beds in the Cedar Falls. And you can see the kind of data that you get from this. This actually gives you very crisp data on the heart, that this captures the ballistic cardiogram, and you can see the individual heartbeats, so you can actually get beat-to-beat variability. We're capturing Gait as well, and this is an example of using the Microsoft Kinect and extracting depth images of people. So here's a story of a two-resident home where each of these clusters that form coincide with a resident. So each of the dots in that picture are corresponding to segmented walks in the home. And what we found is that they tend to cluster, one cluster per resident. So we can use a clustering algorithm to pick out the cluster centers, and we can track those clusters over time. So the outliers are the visitors that come into the scene. So this particular couple, the woman had Parkinson's. We tracked her gait over time, and in fact it was pretty consistent because she was under medication that was controlling it well. Her husband, however, started experiencing a decline in his gait, and in fact he started taking shorter footsteps, which is consistent with cognitive decline. And this became one of the first objective measures of his cognitive decline. So how does this fit into US Ignite? Well, certainly we'd like to extend this to private homes. We'd like to make more interactive interfaces. I have a physical therapy colleague who sees clients that live an hour or 2 hours away from the clinic. We'd like to have an interactive interface that uses the Kinect, puts the Kinect on both the physical therapist side and the client side in the home. We send data back and forth. We have the physical therapist do exercises and have the client be able to follow this, be able to overlay the data, and be able to show different viewing perspectives. This is the kind of thing that's going to require this an increased networking and computation resources that US Ignite can provide. There's also the issues of security and costs as well. So we come back to the squaring the life curve. If we want to really get this increased area under the curve, as we think we can do, that's going to translate to improved quality of life, real cost savings, and ultimately better health care. So thank you very much.